Element of Chance by Bob Shaw, from his collection Tomorrow Lies in Ambush, published 1973 by Ace Books, a division of Charter Communications Incorporated. The summons was far from welcome. Only that morning, Cytheron had turned the world to glass. Not objectively, although he would one day reach the stage where it would have been possible, but subjectively by modifying his vision to utilize neutrinos. He had attempted the same thing without success some centuries earlier, and the memory of the previous failure was contributing to his present enchantment because it made him aware of the processes of his own maturation. His body was transparent now, sensed only as an interaction of its elements with the mesons of the cosmic ray bombardment moving across the face of a crystal globe within which geological strata writhed like luminous vapors. Above him the sky was strange. His eyes could peer into the hearts of giant red suns, yet were aware of no other stars, and he was exalted, inhaling reality and breathing it out as a liquescence of music, poetry, and magic. A day, a year, a decade, all would have been as one in the new sensory configuration, but it seemed that only seconds had passed when the summons arrived, written on daylight, keyed to the singularities of his own cerebral rhythms, so that no other denizen of this world could be aware of it, except perhaps as an impression that a fleeting cloud had crossed the sun. Cytheron readjusted his eyes and found himself on a sloping plain where dry snow-like flakes of amethyst swirled down from a green sky, not to lie dormant, but to flow and furl with the currents of invisible magnetic rivers. Beyond the plain was a mountain range of milk-white rock, riven by fitfully fluorescing glaciers, and he was able to orientate himself by it. Cytheron reached outwards with his mind and skorded. On the instant he was standing on another plain far across the world, close to a group of 8 elder Thanii, members of his own species. There was no snow here. Instead, a warm amethyst rain paraded in regular curtains and broke in translucent archways above the group's individual screens. A herd of indigenous 6-legged animals cropped the lacy grass all around, but so that the beasts would not be alarmed or disturbed in any way, the Thanii were permitting light to pass through their bodies. Cytheron immediately adopted the same mode. "I answer your summons," he thought. "Why did you call?" "You must know." The 8 elders thought as with one mind, a unison which never failed to fill Cytheron with dread. "You have come of age, and the group mind is ready to receive you." But Cytheron's protest was stillborn as he realized the truth of what was being said. He had come of age. 1,000 years and more glimmered in his memory like a dissolving dream. "I'm not ready." "You are ready." The group voice was kind but inflexible. "And we are ready for you." "I have no doubt that you are prepared to receive me, but what shall I gain in exchange for my youth?" "Your racial heritage of experience and wisdom." "Which means I shall become old, doesn't it, Elder Thanii?" "You cannot conceive what you shall become, Cytheron, and there lies the source of your apprehension. You must have faith in the ways of our kind. You must believe that we know best and now prepare to be assimilated." "Never." Cytheron skorded as he formed the thought, and once more he was haloed by amethyst flakes of desiccated snow. The distant mountains wavered slightly. Then the Thanii were with him again, invading his mind with cool tendrils. He cried aloud and skorded at random. Brown riverbed darkly rolling, amber spires of an amber city sipping the morning sun, a blue forest's introspective hush. But the elders held to him easily, and his fear grew. A strange peacefulness burgeoned within him. There was a subtle loosening, and he realized he had almost surrendered his identity to the group, had almost yielded his individuality. His despair took him outwards from the face of the planet. He paused briefly on the third moon, but the shattered silver daggers of the horizon began to waver, and he knew he had not escaped. Another leap. A giant world, saffron sands under crimson sky. Leap. White hell, heart of moribund sun. Leap. Sentient hill of black jelly shifting restlessly beneath alien stars. And all the time, the elder Thaniai's hold grew firmer. Citharon experienced a single moment of insanity. Before fully understanding what he was doing, he had skorded to the one place in that region of the galaxy where nobody, in his opinion, not even the Thanii, could reach him. Having endured the fantastic death throes peculiar to its species, the quasar was at peace. The process of extinction had begun eons earlier when the incredibly massive body exhausted its nuclear energy potential and began collapsing radially. During the contraction, density increased until the attendant gravitic field became so fierce as to imprison all radiation, and the quasar's own light began to orbit around it. But the same contraction brought a spasmodic renewal of life. Gravitational energies became available, racking the still vast sphere with explosions which repeatedly pushed its radius back outside the limit where radiation can be trapped. For 10 times 1,000 years, the quasar fluctuated between two diameters, one above and one below the critical dimension. Since there is no way of communicating with or receiving information from an object which imprisons its emanations, the quasar could be considered as periodically entering and leaving the normal continuum. Finally, however, even the fund of gravitic energy was depleted. The quasar folded the stuff of space-time in around itself and vanished. Only a silent black hole of gravity marked its position in the stellar concourse. Citharon realized the enormity of his mistake almost at once. The surface of the quasar was an inferno of introverted, recirculated energy, but the Thanii had long ago learned the secret implicit in the universal truth that without resistance there can be no force, and he was physically at ease. It was a short and relatively simple step from making his body transparent to light to allowing all forms of radiation to pass through it unhindered. The concern he felt sprang from the discovery that he was trapped. His ability to skord was unimpaired, but its effectiveness was canceled by the awesome distortions the quasar had wrought in the geometries of reality. Citharon could skord any imaginable distance, but only in a straight line, and in the vicinity of the dead quasar, a straight line was a circle. He could reach any point on its surface instantaneously, but he could conceive of no way to leave it. All at once, union with the elder Thanii, so repugnant a short time earlier, seemed infinitely desirable. It came to Citharon that he was little more than a child, and had behaved with a child's arrogance and intolerance. The summit of his conceit had come when he accused the elders of trying to take from him. In the anguish of self-knowledge, he screamed and came close to allowing the laminar flow of pent energy to scatter his body to the white winds of hell. "Be calm, Citharon," the elder Thaniai's corporate voice said. "That is not the way." You found me! Cytheron was overwhelmed with relief as he turned and saw the group of 8, looking hearteningly familiar, composed. It was not difficult, they told him. You have much to learn. I know. He abased himself fervently. May I suggest that the first thing you show me is the method of skording through this barrier of gravity? I have no desire to remain here any longer. That is understandable, but there is no way to skord through such a barrier. What? Then all of us are trapped. That is not the case. We will destroy the barrier. The multiple voice of the elder Thanii was calm, and Cytheron began to get his first real inkling of the magnitude of their combined intellect. But how can it be done? Part of the matter comprising this sphere must be reconstituted as antiparticles. The annihilation energy resulting will be sufficient to scatter its mass over a large volume of space, thus dispersing their gravitic field. You can do this? We can. The process has already begun. But the vastness of the operation appalled Cytheron. But it will be the equivalent of a nova, a supernova. Nearby star systems could be triggered off. Worlds with life on them might be engulfed. I would prefer not to be freed, to die, rather than cause the death of another being. Do not be alarmed. We elders have lost none of our reverence for the counter-entropic force. Had freeing you meant the destruction of life, of even one individual, we would have been forced to leave you on this sphere. However, you were lucky. There will be the equivalent of a supernova, but the only star close enough to be triggered off is without planets. But the cosmic ray bombardment, the neutron flux, is bound to flood the entire region. Will no inhabited worlds be affected? None. As we said, you have been very lucky, Cytheron. We examined all the stars of this neighborhood and have found only one solar system. It has 9 evolving worlds, but is in a very early stage of development, and life will not begin there until long after the violence of the explosion has abated. I see. I'm glad. Cytheron sought a way to express his gratitude. Then all powers of thought were lost temporarily as antimatter was created at the hands of the Thanii, and the outraged universe fell on it in a blaze of attritive fury. The elders had been correct in their analysis of his fears, Cytheron realized. He had not been able to conceive what he would become after assimilation into the group mind. Nothing in his previous state of separateness could have prepared him for the translation into the adult state of being, its sense of completeness and belonging, its transcendental peace. The sapience and experience of 1,000 centuries surrounded him like a luminous cloud, modifying and yet at the same time establishing and reasserting his uniqueness. He paused briefly near a medium-sized sun with 9 planets, the solar system closest to the stellar holocaust the Thanii had engineered on his behalf. The sun and its retinue of nascent worlds swam undisturbed in the galactic tide, unaware of the cosmic storm approaching them at almost the speed of light. As you see, Cytheron, the group said, there is no life here. The planetary masses are in an early stage of formation. I do see. He indicated a globe with an unusually large moon, third from the sun. I imagine that this one will best approximate the optimum conditions for intelligent life. We agree. I must eventually return here, Cytheron said. I can't help feeling some curiosity about the way in which life will develop on this world. I also feel a certain responsibility.
Responsibility?
Yes. There is no life here yet, but I dread the thought that the consequences of my irresponsibility may have some adverse effect on its future course. After all, the very structure of the planet will be changed when it encounters the neutron flux from the supernova.
You worry unduly, Cytheron,
the group mind said with an amusement which was tempered by its 1,000 centuries of wisdom.
The only physical effect the explosion will have on this world is that there will be a high degree of neutron capture, leading to the formation of rather heavier elements than are normally found on a world of that type.
As he sensed the elder Thaniai's amusement and then was drawn further into the group mind, Cytheron felt his unformed fears lessen and vanish. He could find nothing in that limitless fund of knowledge to suggest that the development of an intelligent species could be affected in any noticeable way by the presence of heavy metals such as gold or uranium.